You're listening to the audio portion of Workshop Wednesdays. Workshop Wednesdays is a free live discussion about topics affecting accountants, bookkeepers, and business owners. You can join the ABO group in Facebook to participate live Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Pacific Time. Just search for ABBO in Facebook. This podcast is brought to you by Schoolofbookkeeping.com, where you will learn, grow, and build a thriving bookkeeping practice. We have hundreds of lessons with almost every aspect of the industry. Start your free month today at Schoolofbookkeeping.com.
Well, welcome again to another Workshop Wednesday brought to you by Schoolofbookkeeping.com, where it's just casual conversations for serious workflows. And I appreciate you joining us here today. And as you may or may not notice, Rachel's background is a little different. So we're life goes on, whether you have a workshop planned or not. So I appreciate Rachel joining us from Father's house today. Is that where we're at?
Yep. Thank goodness for my laptop. And actually, thank goodness he had his Wi-Fi password ready to go.
That's right. So not too many security measures for his just leave his Wi-Fi password just laying around for you to stumble upon.
Oh, it's on a piece of paper.
That's right. He's not practicing PCI compliance.
No, PCI
when it
compliance.
We appreciate you joining us, because if you didn't join, I would have nothing to talk about today, because we're going to talk about what you do to reconcile PayPal.
You reconcile PayPal, Dan. Come on.
Well, I have my own methods, but I was curious about what Rachel does today when it comes to best practices for PayPal, because PayPal is one of those aspects of a business, and we talked about it last week of why PayPal and Venmo and those types of accounts are increasingly challenging. So if you just want to kind of recap the overall challenge with PayPal and why you get so excited when you hear that word when it comes to your clients.
Well, the reason that I'm excited about PayPal and Venmo and all those things is because it's really complex. And I love doing the really complex reconciliation because it's fun. But from a business owner's perspective, they should want to use PayPal and Venmo. And well, I mean, if they're an e-commerce business or selling stuff, or like we discussed last week, gosh, even the service-based business, I'm doing some home renovations in both my house and my dad's house, and the guy accepts PayPal. He sent me a PayPal link. So really, even a service-based business, they really want to. We don't live in the kind of world anymore when, sorry, I got to turn off my notifications, but,
Here they all come
again. We don't live in that kind of world where, just somebody only will take a check, you know what I mean? Or, a lot of, even if they're a little more old timey business, like they may take a bank transfer or a wire. But those days of businesses really only taking cash or check, they're really limiting themselves. So there's all kinds of different ways to get paid. And so I usually encourage all my clients to accept anything you can, get that money. We'll take care of it on the back end. We'll do the accounting and bookkeeping, but they really want to create an account in PayPal and Stripe and Square, whatever will help them get that money.
And yeah, and you bring up a good point, because it's super convenient, and you don't want to be an obstacle to accepting a form of a payment method that somebody is willing to give you, right? Like,
Right. And how many times have
take
you,
American Express? Do you take PayPal? Do you take fill in the blank?
yes. You want to be able to say, I take all the things,
Yeah.
instead of telling your customer, especially if, you need to accept multiple thousands of dollars. You don't want to say, well, I don't take that. Because you're frustrating them and you could potentially alienate them, and they might not be a repeat customer, and they might also tell other people they're a pain to deal with, or your business is a pain to deal with. So You want to be able to accept all those payments.
Yeah, I used to watch this show called The Prophet. It was I can't it's the CEO of Camping World. I can't remember his name now, but he would go around to different businesses and kind of look at, what their business practices were. And I remember one episode where he was talking. It was a barbecue place somewhere where barbecue is relevant, and they only took cash. And right, like they were turning away business because they did not accept credit cards. And, he had a really nice example of, and their reasoning was, well, the fees, right? It's
Right.
coming to their bottom line because of the fees. And he explained it to them. It's like, look how much business you're losing
Yeah.
by accepting credit cards. And how much is that in comparison to the 2-3% or whatever it is for the credit card charges? Uh, in relationship to that. I mean, you would grow your business X
So
amount of
much more.
dollars.
Yeah, which is essentially even a deductible expense anyway. So I don't know,
Yeah, it's
just
just a
the,
cost of
the
doing
math,
business.
the math doesn't add up.
Yes. So, PayPal is one of those things where it could allow a business to accept more, or, have that customer as in terms of a nuisance of of not being able to accept the payment that the customer is willing to use. I also see the flip side of that, where people are annoyed if PayPal is the only payment option as well. So you want to have a multitude of ways to to take the money. Um, but when it comes down to, you mentioned it's a puzzle, and it's difficult. And we talked a little bit last week about why it's so difficult, is because it's not just one thing. It's it's not just you're taking money. You mentioned, somebody could send an invoice through PayPal.
Mhm.
Somebody could pay for goods and services with PayPal. So that's all just kind of funneling into this one account. And I guess, would you call it a bank account? Would you call it a credit card account? Would you call it an escrow account? What would you classify the PayPal balance as being?
We definitely at Net Deposited, we consider it a bank account, an asset on the balance sheet. We reconcile it like a bank account. And when we're creating the account, and I can get to this. Well, I'm sure we'll get this a little bit later, but when we're actually linking PayPal, the actual account that we're creating in QBO is a bank account.
Okay, Susan agrees.
Yep,
Bank.
Susan agrees.
And if Susan agrees, ACC5, I think that's probably a typo.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, and you have to think about it too. In QBO, your deposit to, like when you want to select what you're depositing to, it will only work if it's set up as a bank account. So, I don't think, you tell me, you're the expert. If I set it up as other current asset, can I deposit to it, or does it have to be a bank account?
you can deposit to it, but you can't connect it, right?
Ah,
So,
right, right. Okay.
the two types of accounts in QBO that can accept, that you can connect a bank feed to, is a bank account where it's listed
Mhm.
as a bank account, or a credit card account.
Gotcha.
Um,
That's right.
Other
That's right.
types of, like, notes payable or lines of credit, or those types of things that you would set up as other current assets or liabilities, they don't connect. And then there's typically an error message that happens when you try to import transactions to those types of accounts. So you do have to kind of set it up as one of those two. Um, and this is kind of odd in terms of, you know what kind of account you are setting it up as, because if they primarily use it for expenses, um, you know, then maybe you want to see it more on a credit card side of things. But, in the grand scheme of things, just like any other bank account where you have a debit card, that's money coming out, and deposits where it's money coming in, makes the most sense that it's actually a bank account.
Yeah, and
So
I like the way that you're describing that I is very QBO. Like we say money out, money in. And when I'm helping and training and dealing with business owners, I like to use those very simple terms. They're not necessarily accounting terms, money in, money out, but it's a software term. And I like that. And so um I actually probably wouldn't ever set it up as a credit card account, but just because of the nature of the money movement, for me it's simpler to think of it as just a simple checking account, and we can get into that a little bit more. But yeah, like you were saying, you can use, and when I say you, I mean business owners can use PayPal to buy things, but when we're talking about using PayPal as a means of collecting money from your customer, like we were just kind of saying when in an intro when we first came in. Um, at Net Deposited, we usually have very high volume clients. And so for that reason, I like to even keep it simpler. And we usually discourage business owners from buying stuff with their PayPal account. So we don't
mm,
have a lot of money in and money out. We usually are dealing with money in. But I do want to touch upon when we are dealing with money in and money out, and we can get to that when you're ready to talk about that.
well, let's just dive right in. Well, I think of one of the other things that I think we want to caution people about the connecting PayPal as a bank account is this whole idea of trans in
Yes.
that when you have your bank account connected to or your PayPal account as a funding account coming from your bank account, then you're gonna see it from both ends. You're gonna see
Mhm.
the transaction leaving the bank account and going to PayPal to fund the PayPal balance, so to speak, in order to pay for those expenses. And that gets entirely challenging when it comes to categorizing both of those things because a transfer, um, when both sides of the account are connected, you see this with, transferring from savings to checking. uh,
Mhm.
who does it first, right? Like which account
Yeah.
do you actually reconcile it first or acknowledge the bank feed transaction? And if that comes in as a deposit as opposed to a transfer between two financial accounts, um, then you see a negative deposit on the PayPal side of things, or you see this positive expense. It depends on which one shows up first, and the bank sees nothing about the actual transaction itself. It just says, "Well, I just sent money to PayPal,"
Yeah,
or
so what you're explaining is, like, pretty much the most, confusing part about it all, and so I just kinda wanna back up really quick, and I just wanna say, remember a few episodes ago when we were talking about, the, uh Intuit Live bookkeeping. Well, one of my employees, Alyssa, she works for Intuit Live. And in our meeting this morning, we were talking about the fact that this is what we're talking about today. And she said, wow, okay, the one thing that you have to talk about, the one thing that everybody asks Intuit Live bookkeeping regarding PayPal is what the heck do I do with this money movement when it's pulling? Because like you just said, you're seeing situations in which it's pulling from another account, but it's not always going to do that. So I want you guys to think about it this way, okay? PayPal is essentially going to do one of two things, okay? So we're going to think about it very, very simply. Situation one is this: I have PayPal connected to my checking account because, and let's for this situation, let's say it's very, very, very low volume because we want to keep it very, very. So, I'm a business owner and I would like to be able to accept payments through PayPal. And occasionally I'm going to buy something with PayPal. Not very often, but every once in a while. Or I mean, once a month, I may have a recurring transaction connected to my PayPal, like um, my Pandora account or something like that, connected to pay with my PayPal. Okay. So, let's say I have collected some money from a customer and it goes into my PayPal. And in my PayPal setting, I have opted not to sweep it over to my checking account. I want to keep a balance in my PayPal. That means when I log into PayPal and I look at my balance, I can see, oh, let's say I had a customer pay an invoice of mine for $5,000 and they paid with PayPal. Well, it's just going to sit in my PayPal balance unless I turn on my setting to sweep it over to my checking account. And in that situation, you will see in money banks and cards and the settings in PayPal, when you look at your checking account, you can say, you know what? I want to automatically transfer my PayPal balance every single day. That means, and then at every night, if you have a balance in your PayPal account, it'll automatically sweep it to your checking account. We have a lot of clients that like to do that because they don't want to leave a lot of money sitting in their PayPal account, because guess why? If it comes over to their, savings account or checking account, maybe it's an interest bearing account, and then they sweep it over, then, they can receive that interest. And so, or you can turn it on, maybe transfer it every 2 weeks. You can turn it on, transfer it every 4 weeks. Now in that
Do
situation,
you feel that that's the best practice, is to do the auto
I
sweep?
find the best practice is to sweep it daily. Yep. Because guess what? Then you're essentially treating PayPal as a pass-through account. It makes it a lot easier to reconcile, because think about it this way. Your PayPal account is always going to have a zero balance because everything is just sort of passing through it, right? So when at the end of the month, when you go to reconcile your PayPal balance, which we'll talk about in a bit, you're reconciling to zero. Otherwise, you're going to have to go into your PayPal account, look at your PayPal statement, and at the end of the month, you're going to have an amount that you have to reconcile to. So, so we want to think about our PayPal as more of a pass through. That's the best practice. That's the easier way to do it. I'm not even going to get into foreign currency. This is not to talk about that right now. Jamie is probably laughing over there because she's in foreign currency, HE, you know what, right now. So we'll not go into that. But anyway, so best practice is to make sure that you tell your client, you know what, you want to advise them. Speaking of advisory, turn it on every single day, to have it sweep every day. Okay, so now we are not holding a balance in our PayPal account, and now guess what we're going to start seeing? We're going to start seeing transfers. We're going to see from now in your QBO screen, in your bank screen, you've got accounts, right? In on your banking feeds, you've got checking account, checking account, checking account, credit card account, blah, da, 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 da. Yeah, and then presumably you have your PayPal account connected. So let's say you go to and this is like we had a client that would always buy stuff with PayPal. Let's say they went to Napa Auto Parts, right? And they have an option to purchase with PayPal. They go and they buy some auto parts at Napa Auto Parts, and the charge comes through their PayPal. But guess what else they're seeing? That in money banks and cards, that PayPal account is attached to, let's say, Chase checking account 1234. Okay. So in the Chase bank feed, they're seeing a transfer. Why? Dan, you tell me why they're seeing a transfer.
Because it's pulling from there to fund
Exactly.
the PayPal balance.
Exactly. So is the expense hitting in the Chase account?
No.
No. So what it's doing in the background is PayPal is saying, hey, Chase account, give me the money for this. Shove it into my PayPal account so I can go ahead and pay for it with PayPal, right? That's the
Yeah.
technical term. Just shove it in there. So,
Just cram it
so
in.
yeah. So you are going to see a transfer, just a money movement from Chase to PayPal, then PayPal to the expense. So that's the accounting that you need to think about, right? Now, what Alyssa was saying to me earlier is that a lot of bookkeepers and business owners are people that are seeking out help from Intuit Live Bookkeeping. And remember, like we said, Intuit Live Bookkeeping does not go into their QuickBooks. All they do is just look at the screen and they advise them. And so she said that's the number one thing that everybody gets wrong is they see that money movement in Chase and they go, oh, it's an expense coming out of Chase. No, it's not. And so then you're risking duplicating your expenses. And
Yeah.
is that a bad thing to do?
Oh, yes. That is a
Bad.
bad thing.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Um, but that I think part of the challenge of all this is that there is some information on that bank feed from the bank's perspective that
Yes.
gives some indication that, oh, this was for blah, 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 blah. For who? Well, there's some kind of payee notification in the
Yes.
bank details. And that's where people get in trouble here
Yeah,
is because
they get a little muddled, and so it'll usually say, um, to PayPal, but they don't quite understand that, and so they'll go, "Oh, this is that charge for Napa Auto Parts." So
yeah,
we'll see them code that as an expense in that Chase account. Well, that's immediately where they go wrong. So the indicator is you wanna look at when you're doing your bank feeds, you're looking at these, I can see this, it's $75.99 right here in PayPal, and I'm seeing the 79 here in Chase. So really what we want to do is we want to do a transfer from Chase to PayPal, because that's all it's doing is just going from here to there. And then on the PayPal side, it'll usually then match that transfer. Great. That transfer is there on both sides. Then you'll see a second money out transaction because the transfer was money in, right? On the PayPal side. The transfer on the Chase side is money out. So it's money out from Chase to PayPal, money in from when you're looking from PayPal to Chase, it's money in. Then there's a secondary transaction that's the actual expense, and that's the expense that gets recorded on the PayPal side. So that's when people are making purchases in PayPal. And it's not holding a balance in PayPal. It's got a pull from a source. Now, if there is a balance in PayPal, if you're opting to not sweep that money every single night and you are collecting money from your customers and it's just sitting in your PayPal. So let's say you've got a balance of $250 in your PayPal account, and then you go to Napa Auto Parts and you buy $100 worth of stuff. It's just going to pull it from the balance in PayPal, and you will not have a transfer. You will just see an expense. So, in my opinion, that's what confuses a lot of people because sometimes there's transfers and sometimes there's not. And maybe in the middle of the day, there is a PayPal balance sitting there. And so you're just going to see an expense. And then maybe at the end of the night, it'll sweep it over. And then the next day, it's got to cause a pull. So it can get
true.
really, really
Well,
challenging. Am I cutting out?
and no, you sound great to me.
Okay.
But these, I was curious about, because I don't deal a lot with a lot of high volume in PayPal. In your experiences, have you seen a situation where they do have the daily sweep, right? Money coming in, but they do some expenditures throughout the day, just and there's maybe not enough in the money coming in to cover the expense. Do
Right.
does the expense always the same dollar amount of the pull from the bank account, or is it
Yeah, I think so.
potentially
I
where you
think
have some from the balance and some from
I
the PayPal
haven't ever
balance and
seen
some
it
from
that
the
way.
bank account?
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. I would like Jamie to chime in and maybe make a comment because she's the one that sees it constantly. I don't think so. I don't think it's going to partially grab a balance, some from the balance and some from the bank. I don't know. That is a really, really good question. I'm a little more removed from it now and think about it more conceptually, but
Got it.
she would know. So if maybe she can check, or maybe she just knows off the top of her head. But
And
yeah,
Matthew has pointed
yeah.
out that, transfers are always the problem. QuickBooks
Yeah,
Online. That is
yeah,
his, Achilles heel, with with regards to
yeah,
PayPal, I see.
and Matt, I totally agree, and that's why, like, obviously, anybody who's watching this may think, "What in the world is she talking about with this pulling from here and pulling from there?" Oh, and that's just if it's connected to one checking account.
Yeah,
Sometimes these business owners have PayPal connected to 3, 4, 5, 6 checking accounts, and boy, did I learn the hard way. Charge more for that complexity because if you ask a potential client, if you're an accountant or bookkeeper, and you ask a potential client, "Do you have PayPal?" And they go, "Yeah." Is that enough? price? No. Because what if they've got payouts coming in from PayPal and those are sweeping to one checking account and then they're making purchases and it's pulling from 3, 4, 5 checking accounts? That complexity, it requires a lot of money for you to earn to deal with that. You know, it's so time
And
consuming.
there better not be a credit card tied to that funding source for
Yeah,
because
yeah, for sure. Oh,
go
and
from
there
that.
always is. There always is. So
Right.
now I go through that with a fine tooth comb. When I'm pricing, I look in their PayPal settings. I look to see what that's connected to. Sometimes they say, "Oh, I only have one PayPal." Jamie, what do we know about that? Nope. We see transfers to a mystery PayPal, and then we discover nope, they've got maybe 2, 3, 4 PayPals. So it can get really complex. But again, we're going to go back to our situation. Oh, Matt, of course, there's
When
that
there's
too.
loans.
Yeah, there's ones too. But you know what? Let's talk about that another day
Yeah.
because that is a whole other layer of you've got a liability involved in that, and it's deducting, and it's all kind of stuff. But what I will say is,
And I just wanted to button this up that the ledger artist has said they work with volume, high Venmo transactions. They've never seen a partial payment.
yeah, I think they like yay for Venmo and yay for PayPal for like thinking with their head screwed on straight for that. Because if they were splitting, then that my life would be a nightmare. So now in the spirit of keeping it simple, we're just going to think about again this one business where it's just connected to one checking account, simple and whatever. So then at the end of the month, when we are going to reconcile PayPal, we're literally just going to look at the PayPal statement that's in PayPal. You have it connected as a bank feed. You've done all your transfers correctly. And you need to reconcile PayPal like a bank at the end of the month based on your PayPal statement. Now, Dan, I want you to think about this. Let's say that business owner doesn't ever, ever, ever make any purchases with PayPal. They're only using it as a means of collecting payments on Shopify or something like that. Now, in that situation, here's a special circumstance. You don't always need to connect PayPal as a bank. Why? Because there are a lot of advanced connectors out there that can actually post these transactions for you, right? And so you know this because you and I have talked about this a lot, that the connectors, when you map it correctly, that'll actually post the activity from your from your platform, let's say Shopify or something, to your checking account. So it's posting that activity for you. You then don't need to worry about reconciling a PayPal account. But then guess what happens? Then you find out that they are, and they'll post the fees for you, by the way. So then you
Yeah.
find out that they've just decided that they want to go ahead and make purchases with PayPal. Then you find out the hard way and you're like, gosh darn it, now I got to connect PayPal to the bank feeds and then pull them in. And then the necessity for connecting them to the bank feeds is usually always so you can grab the expenses. And that's why, again, like in this world of it depends, we hate saying that, but it really does because you have to talk to your client and analyze what are they doing in PayPal? If are they making expenses? And a lot of times I'll say, based on my experience and expertise, if you've got a complex Shopify scenario, let's not make purchases with PayPal. And they're usually like, okay, they really value what I'm saying. And then I say, use your business credit card, get those points. Right? I know. Matt, he's saying, I wish we could block features on people's spending habits. But you know what, Matt? Like you are an excellent advisor to your clients too, especially in this world of a zillion things to know. That when you talk to them and they say, well, what should I do? I usually say, if you're going to, your business purchases, use those credit cards where, you're getting all kinds of points back and rewards and cash back and utilize those features and don't make the purchases with your PayPal, especially if they're selling a large volume of like little priced things on something like Shopify, which we have people that are doing that too. They're selling like little doodads for like $5.99 and there's a zillion of them coming in. Um, we really don't want money in, money out, money in, money out, and reconciling that PayPal account, it can get ugly. And one thing that we were talking about earlier this morning in our meeting is not only can it get ugly reconciling your PayPal account with loans, like Matt said, the more volume and the more money in, money out, money in, money out, especially if you're making purchases, you're going to see something like hold, authorization hold, and authorization releases. Those usually clear each other out and are net zero at the end of the month. But oftentimes, if you've got a heavy PayPal activity throughout the month, it won't net to zero. And then, so that's going to be a difference in your PayPal reconciliation. And you might want to park that in some kind of temporary account or something, clearing account or something, which you got to dump that data into
the
the
clearing
file.
account,
Yeah, yeah. So that's obnoxious.
sub-clearing. And then the thing that surprised me the most when, I first started this journey was the statement itself for PayPal looks like nothing you've ever seen before.
Yeah.
So it's like, what is that?
Yeah, and we have some that we're having like 75, 80-page PayPal statements, and so it's not one of these scenarios where you wanna print it out and go through it page by page. It's impossible. So, you really, what like we don't work with them anymore, but we used to have a really heavy, heavy PayPal client, um, that uh-oh, did I cut out?
You're
Okay.
you're still there.
Um So
Did I?
they and we would have to, yes, yes, I'm not Jamie, right? And so we would have to dump the data into a CSV, sort it, and, net all the authorization holds and releases and do it that
Mm.
way, and then, and whatever. But now in that situation, we're not posting individual transactions. We're using something like Bookkeep and posting a summary of all of the data for the day. And in that situation, we've got a gross sales of several tens of thousands of dollars. And then with the debit side, posting to a Shopify clearing, a PayPal clearing, and blah, blah, blah. Now I'm getting into something a little more complicated. So what do you want to talk
Go-
about that, Dan?
No, go right ahead. Because that's that. It almost seems like PayPal is a minefield, and
Yeah.
you just have to tread lightly and know where you're stepping before you step on something that you end up with an 80-page, um, 80-page PayPal
Yeah.
statement, or just something that you don't want an explosion like that where you trip off something that you don't want to see.
Doug is saying, I just say no to PayPal. Well, you know
Right.
what? That's why you've got to have accounts that are doing PayPal like us, because a lot of them will say no. So I will say I gladly will take them because we love to do PayPal. So, and then I get to charge more for it. And now you know why, right? So, now let's go back to my scenario where I was saying, simple business, it's just making the occasional purchase. Let's say you're a business owner and you are not using PayPal to collect money. You just have PayPal so you can buy things online, and you're just buying, materials for your business, and you're just purchasing stuff online. Connect PayPal to your bank feeds, categorize your transfers and your expenses where they need to go, reconcile it up, and call it a day. You don't need to deal with PayPal clearing. When do you need to deal with PayPal clearing? When you are collecting money from with the business owners collecting money from their customers using PayPal. The reason you need to use something like PayPal clearing is because, and Dan, we talk about this all the time. When you receive a net payout from PayPal, is that your income?
No,
No. Why not?
because there's more to it. There's shipping, there's fees, there's other things that you might want to categorize based off of that transaction. So you certainly
Yeah.
don't want to recognize all or nothing to income and or expense.
Yeah. So this is the thing that Jamie and I see the most when we go in and diagnose and do a lot of cleanups. We see that they're posting payouts to income, not just PayPal, everything. And so we don't want that thinking, okay? Because that's a payout and cash isn't revenue. So yeah, exactly, Matt. We need to gross up the numbers. So we primarily deal with a lot of inventory. So we're selling a lot of stuff. And so they're collecting a payment on, that stuff. And let's say I sell goods for $100 and my revenue is $100, but I'm paid out $85 because let's say I had to pay $15 in fees. Maybe they're made up of a whole bunch of stuff. So that $85 will come in the bank feed, and people will think that's my revenue. Well, it's not. And so that's why we utilize a lot of connector tools from anywhere from Bookkeep to Cinder to Connects, a new one I'm using. I know we integrate even just plain old one SaaS connector from the Intuit has whatever you're using. Those are designed to post your actual revenue, your gross revenue. So like for Shopify, for example, we have gross sales, less discounts, less returns, less shipping income, less tax collected. And then the offset is money to be expected. That's what I like to call it because it's really explains what it is. That's on the debit side. Because as we know, credit is revenue. Revenue posts as a credit, debits and credits. And then your debit side is going to be your money to be expected clearing account. And so then when the cash actually comes in from the bank, that's going to be credited to the clearing account and debited to cash. So it clears everything out, which it's supposed to. But we want those money to be expected in the clearing account. We don't want to post that to revenue. So we really don't want to just shortcut it and grab that payout and just post it to revenue because you're understating your income. And does that affect your tax return?
Of course.
Big time, big time. And let's say I understate my revenue by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Is the IRS going to come after me?
Well, it's
Big
where
time.
yeah, depends on how many new IRS agents they have with armed guns, depending on who you
Yeah,
believe
yeah,
is going to be
yeah. I don't know. Like
giving
Joe
the
Biden
cash to
hired
your door.
81,000. I don't know. Maybe they're not looking at Shopify sellers, but
Yeah.
and then guess what else? Peanuts. When I run my Shopify reporting, why am I getting text? I put it on when I run my Shopify reporting, it's not going to match what
Not me.
my it's my daughter's texting me, come
Mm.
pick me up from school. Yeah, Matt, yeah, all your other clients too. So you got it. This is best practice. So we want to get everybody working in best practice, right? So you want, and I always say you want to match your Shopify reporting because you want to be the best accountant you can be. And thank you. So you want your reporting to match your QBO. You don't want this discrepancy and then your business owner going, why is my P&L saying this and my Shopify reporting is saying this? We like to tie it out to the Shopify reporting. And so that's what makes us bulletproof. And that's why that's our everything at Net Deposited. So anyway, so that's why you've got that PayPal clearing. And it's really reconciling your sale with your payment, sale with your payment, sale with your payment, sale with your payment. Boom. Reconcile that at the end of the month
And
to
then
zero.
and then you're going to do that from the statement, or you sometimes if it's too big, you're going to put it into a CSV, or what
Nope.
is your
The
process?
statement is only for the PayPal bank. The PayPal clearing account is literally only your net payment expected, which is on the debit side, versus your actual payment that came. So you're proving your payouts, your expected payouts. Because guess what happens if your total for the day is saying, I'm expecting $7,500 worth of PayPal payouts for that day. And what happens if the payouts come through and it's only 6,500? And we won't see that usually in the day. We'll see that month end when we're reconciling that account. And then Jamie's like, wait a second, like I was expecting 7,500 in that day and it only paid out 6,500. Then we go into the PayPal, we go into Shopify, we go into the settings, we troubleshoot, and we say to the business owner, hey, guess what? We caught that you were expected $7,500 and you only got 6,500. And then the business owner says, dang it, like maybe they're withholding money, maybe they're placing a hold. Like, thank you guys for catching that. It's a big value add.
So do
So it
you
really,
put as far as your clearing and your holds and such things, how do you set those up in the chart of accounts? Are they separate accounts altogether, like PayPal
yes,
money to
yeah.
be expected, and then the PayPal balance, and
Yeah,
then
so the
bank account?
holds are usually only associated with purchasing. So if they're not purchasing, you're not really gonna see those holds. Um, and to be honest, like, there's not really a situation in which they're holding PayPal payouts. It may just be that usually, you know what it'll be? It'll be that the business
Yeah,
owner
right.
was
The
accidentally
timing.
they have the money not transferring or something like
Mhm.
that. And so then you let them know we're expecting these payouts, they're not coming. And then they're like, "You know what? Let me just give you access to all of my settings in PayPal, you just deal with it." That's where I am now, is I usually like, "Just let me do it."
Now
Um,
so, is there something you wanted to demonstrate, or are we just gonna talk conceptually about the reconciliation? Because
you
I know
know,
we're a little, because I
let's
know you're at your dad's place, so it's not like
yeah,
you have
yeah.
your dual screen setup and those types of things, so maybe we might wanna
Yeah, and
save
I
that for next week.
actually exactly, and I actually would like to, talk about the actual reconciliation process maybe on its own, and maybe we can
Yeah.
do that next week, and then I can demo, because I really just wanted to talk about the idea of it, because I wanted to describe it in a very logical way,
Yeah.
and I want people to realize it is very logical. And so if you can understand it that way, and I will say, this is not really for the beginning bookkeeper that doesn't really understand debits and credits. I really do highly recommend it's really for people that have a strong background in accounting. And so it's because it can get complex, and the ramifications of doing it incorrectly can really screw up somebody's books. And we clean up a lot of errors like this, keeps us in business, but you can learn it. Like,
Well, I
and you can learn it, I promise you. And that's sort of like what I want to get into a little bit more is I'm actually going to, Dan, you and I talked about, is I'm gonna put together a PayPal checklist of this is what you need to know, basically, when I'm dealing with my PayPal bank account and I'm dealing with the PayPal clearing. Because the PayPal clearing is gonna have less stuff. The PayPal clearing is just for expected payouts. That's it. When you're dealing with, "Uh-oh, I've got the net amount of holds and loans and all these other nonsense going on," that's gonna be in your PayPal bank account. And so, like Matt said, I mean, he probably sees loan deductions, and then, oh, and then Matt, do you see this where they renew the loan? And then you're like, what's the loan fee? You see it in the PayPal statement, and you kind of like back into finding the stuff you need to know. Because do we ever just get notified ahead of time when they secure a new loan? Do you, Dan? Do they notify you?
Of course not. It's a surprise, afterwards.
Yeah.
So we'll do that next week, where we'll
Yeah.
actually go into a little bit more, detail, and I wanted to just touch slightly, on, a function or a new function inside of QuickBooks about the auto reconciliation, um, function, and, really all that does, and it only works with accounts that are connected with where the statement fetch will come down into QuickBooks Online to be able to do that. But the only thing that it does is look at the statement, see the ending balance, and see the statement ending date, and pre-fill that for you. You still have to do all of the other work. that is involved with that. So it's not like an auto reconciliation process. However, I was a little late getting into preparation today because I am part of a beta test that is actually doing auto reconciliations based off of statements. And
Cool.
I asked them specifically because I was top of mind about PayPal. I'm like, does this actually work for PayPal statement fetch? And they said it does. So I am curious on how this will actually work. And maybe
Yeah,
we'll have
maybe.
like a side by side comparison when I can actually get in there and tinker around with it. So we'll hopefully have that with with our next workshop. But I don't know if it's
Yeah,
actually
well,
going
I
to
was just
be
gonna say
ready.
about that really quick is that, my 2 cents on that is I think they're trying to test out this AI, like, "Can we reconcile it all for you?" And it's fine, but, I do think, like, my general opinion on all that is if it can take care of, like, the no big deal, easy stuff, great, time saving, and then we
Yeah,
can spend our time on the more complex, cleanup work or something like that. That doesn't really bother me, but I'll, I'm guessing it's gotta be really simple. If you've got
yeah,
chargebacks and returns and,
yeah.
already there's a
That's
big struggle with returns in PayPal. So,
as Doug
that's
is
something.
saying, trust but verify.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
like, Jamie and
that's
I were
what you're
talking.
there for, and is to be able to,
Yeah,
verify that those transactions are actually there. I was
yeah,
super stoked on what I did see. Of course, I had to leave early, so I didn't get the whole Q&A session. But I'm stoked to see if this is will do a lot of the lion's share of what a lot of us
yeah,
are
yeah,
doing
and then
manually.
you can focus on like, "Oh, maybe
Yeah,
I do have to go into their sales platform and look up, some of the issues with returns or go into Amazon and look at those
yeah,
issues." It's like we were saying earlier, I mean, we still have struggles with returns all the time, and I know I was talking to Doug about that before, that, "Yeah, but what about returns?" And so that's always an issue, and in a world now where people are just buying everything online and returning everything, yeah, that's never gonna go away.
yeah.
So I like think about that in terms of like the real world application. So yeah, so I'm gonna have like a really cool checklist available for anybody who would like it. And I'm gonna put it on my website and you can put it on School of Bookkeeping and but that'll be free to anybody just to kind of use as a guide. And but yeah, I definitely want to keep talking about this.
All right. So we will see you next week on the Workshop Wednesday. One last thing before we go. Happy birthday, Rachel. We really appreciate you doing this on your birthday. So we wanted to wish you a happy birthday and many more to come. And thank you everybody for joining us in the lively discussion. Nothing causes accountants more ire than talking about PayPal. Apparently,
Not me, I love it.
yeah. You you need professional help. I think
I
that's
know.
the that's the goal.
You're not the only one that
All
says
right.
that. Just kidding.
All right. Well, we'll see you next time on the Workshop Wednesday. Everybody have a great week.